In Walmart's Who'Knewville, everyone ready their cart. Amazing Black Friday deals are about to start. Online and in the app, such great deals to explore. Everything you love from tech, toys, and more. The days to save and the ones to remember. It's only the 25th to the 30th of November. Set your alarms. Don't miss out. These deals are epic, without a doubt. The Who's are all ready, but are you? Walmart Black Friday deals await. Who knew?
Welcome back to Marvelous Disney with Dan Graney, the podcast that discusses the most recent doings of one of the more dynamic divisions of the Walt Disney Company, which is, of course, Marvel Entertainment. This is entertainment writer Jim Hill and my co-host, the always dapper Dan Graney and I. He and I are recording this week's episode on Sunday, November 23rd, 2025. And then this show will post on Wednesday, November 26th, which is just one day out from Thanksgiving. So I got to guess, a busy time for you and the family, Dan?
It is chaos, absolute chaos. If we're not running from house to house, we are hosting, and I am going to be smoking some turkeys. So we'll see how that goes.
Wow. Really? Okay. One would hope you have better luck at it than my dad. My dad got a smoker relatively late in life, and he did ham. And it was one of those things where he would spend hours and he'd glaze it and he'd serve it with such pride. And, you're sitting there trying to chew on it, and it's basically vulcanized rubber, but you love your father. So it's like, yes, can I have another slice of vulcanized rubber, please? Well, anyway, again, best of luck with the cooking.
Thank you.
How about the past week or so? What have you been up to?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's been a few things. My son had an injury right before the week before school started. He had a pretty bad well, I don't even want to call it a cut because it was a couple hundred stitches, but he had had a incident where he on his electric scooter had a run-in with a industrial dumpster outside of somebody's house in the neighborhood, and we've had a few visits. We were in the ER that night, and then over the past few months, just trying to get the guy healed because it's in the space behind his knee. And he actually had to get a skin graft last week. So yeah, we're in the home stretch, and I honestly don't think he has any pain receptors because every time we ask him how he's doing, how he's just like, good. How does it feel? Fine. He has taken no pain medicine.
Cow.
I don't know.
I did not know.
Yeah,
wow. I hear a story like that, 100 plus stitches, and I'm about to complain that I was down in Orlando last week and my feet hurt because I was walking around the Orange County Convention Center with Mr. Tessa and Mr. Schul. We were in town for IAPA, and are you familiar with that? The Attractions Expo they do there. That it's kind of the Super Bowl of themed entertainment.
I am. And it was funny because, here in St. Louis, they do Trans World Entertainment, which is the Halloween, the global Halloween convention. And so because of that, I see a lot of the Halloween vendors and I follow them. And I saw that there were some look like Halloween or animatronic vendors down in IAPA. Is that right?
They were. And in fact, now you just answered one of the mysteries of this year's IAPA, because it's like in years previous, when you go to IAPA, there is literally the scare aisle. And, it's just this giant section of people who do the horror related stuff for, places like Knott's or all of the Halloween theme park things. And so I was anticipating that at this year's show, and there was like one little section and it's like, oh, come on. That's like as big as Christmas. Business wise, but no, they weren't there this year. So now I know they were with you.
They are here in St. Louis. So
Okay. So, did manage, however, to get into Universal while I was down there to check out their holiday decorations.
So while you were down there, let me ask you: did
Mhm.
you happen to see any of Superhero Island?
I again, interesting you bring that up because did go to Iowa, and for example, and I was again looking at the holiday decorations and the entrance plaza, their port of entry Main Street thing. That had garland, that had lights, nothing over the top, and same thing with Hogsmeade Village, the Harry Potter themed area, all very appropriate for the world of the wizarding world. Whereas Seuss's Landing, everything was dialed to 11. I mean, again, they were celebrating Grinchmas in there, and there wasn't an inch of that place that wasn't bedazzled. Whereas Marvel Superhero Island, kind of intriguing, Dan. No holiday decorations out on the street or on the building's exteriors. Now, mind you, if you went into a shop, you went into a restaurant, there'd be a small tree and a bit of garland. And I have to say, there was one nice touch that, the Christmas trees all had these oversized bulbs and ornaments that were Hulk green, which I thought, okay, it was like, all right, somebody's paying attention. That said, was doing a hit and run, so I didn't get to ride anything. I did get to observe one really great meet and greet. There was this little boy who finally got to the top of the line with Captain America, and he was just so thrilled to be there. And he kind of lost his mind when Cap was like, "Well, can you hold my shield for me for a moment?" And but this Universal team member could not have done a better job. He totally, channeled the whole Steve Rogers thing. And but then on the back of that, flew back up to New Hampshire Saturday, got home just in time to start prepping Thanksgiving. I mean, I'm not smoking a turkey, but I do have one currently defrosting, in the stove, and the word salmonella keeps coming to mind. So I have to keep checking on it. I also I'm looking forward to doing some Black Friday shopping. I've got a Marvel related book that I really want to buy that I'm hoping goes on sale on Black Friday. But we'll talk about that later on in today's show. But before that, there's this week's news that Dan has been so gracious to pull together. But before Mr. Graney and I get to that, we need to acknowledge our sponsor, which is unlockmagic.com, where you get real discounts on Walt Disney World and Universal Orlando tickets, sometimes upwards of a 12% off. And just so you know, Unlock Magic is run by the exact same team behind DVC Rental Store and the DVC Resale Market. So just pick your dates, grab your tickets, and go. Unlock Magic makes it that easy to rack up some pretty significant savings. Oh, and when you buy your tickets, tell the nice folks at Unlock Magic that it was Dan and Jim who sent you, okay? All right. So, again, I was walking around the Orange County Convention Center and a couple of theme parks. And so what did I miss this week, Dan? Marvel-related news.
There's a few things. Okay. Well, I mean, we can go ahead and say it. Black Panther 3 is confirmed. Ryan Coogler is back. Maybe somebody named Denzel might be there too. Ryan Coogler was at Deadline's Contenders Film Los Angeles event. Now, they're because they were there because it's award season and his most recent movie Sinners. The horror movie came out in April. Starred Michael B. Jordan.
This kind of floored me. Did you see where Francis Ford Coppola is evidently this huge fan of Sinners? I mean, he praised Coogler's work, saying it was personal, it was epic. What is it? In fact, Coogler's a natural born talent, and it was a wonderful mix of history and horror, and I mean, again, from the hubbubbery that Francis Ford Coppola made. What is it? The Bram Stoker's Dracula from '92.
Right. Yeah. With Gary Oldman and Anthony Hopkins, and
there we go.
Yeah,
there we go. So
that's high praise. As we know, Sinners also is where we can see a lot of the costumes that would have been in Blade, the new Blade movie. So
there we go. Also true.
But back to this a bit. So Coogler let slip that his next film after Sinners would be Black Panther 3, and that he's already working on it hard. It's our next movie. That's a quote. Now, the last time we talked about, Letitia White and her role in Doomsday. Well, she's continuing her role as we discussed. That's not changing at all. But the wild card is Denzel's reported involvement. This has come up a couple times. He even let it slip at one point. But we have heard that, reportedly there's a specific role written for him that this 2-time Academy Award winner could play. The only downside there is that, the movie's a ways away.
Okay. Well, obviously, we got, what is it? Secret Wars. That's December. What is it? Next year. Right?
December. Doomsday first.
I'm sorry. That's right. Yeah. Doomsday first, 2026. Secret Wars 2027. All right. Oh, so what does that mean? Black Panther 3 2028?
2028. That's right.
Oh, again, sorry.
No.
Again, dummy. But no, it just occurred to me again while I was at the Orange County Convention Center, bubbled up on my news feed. But did you see that Chadwick Boseman got a posthumous star on the Hollywood Boulevard this past week?
I did. I saw that they honored him with a star. I also saw some of his famous co-stars there to take part in this.
Yeah. What was it? I want to say Ryan Coogler spoke at the ceremony, and I know there's a photo out there of, I think it's Letitia Wright to one side of Chadwick's Simone, his widow, and then Michael B. Jordan also showed up, and I thought that was really sweet of the two of them to turn out like that. So,
and I don't know if you saw, but in the photo, they had a photo of him there. They had a pair of his shoes, which I thought was pretty touching.
Well, that's the thing. I guess his bride Simone was talking about he wore these shoes all the time. It was a very sweet personal thing they did. Well, all right. Anyway, back to Black Panther 3. So Denzel.
Yeah.
Denzel.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's some, Marvel, the MCU, they've had a few heavy hitters. So we've seen Glenn Close. She, was in Guardians of the Galaxy. Obviously, Robert Redford, who had a surprising turn in Captain America: Winter Soldier. So with that, we have to, wonder out loud: is Denzel going to be a hero, or could he be the heavy? So,
okay.
And if he, then we have to ask: are we going to see his character sooner?
Oh,
perhaps Doomsday, Secret Wars.
Interesting, but again. Doomsday next year, December 2026. Though, again, we keep hearing trailer with Fire and Ash, the Avatar, which arrives December 18th. In fact, 3 weeks and 2 days from when this podcast goes live. By the way, I don't know if you saw the most recent info. Cameron put out that this is the longest Avatar movie so far. 3 hours and 15 minutes long, which again, what was it? Way of Water was 3 hours and 12 minutes long. And before Mr. Green and I get up on our high horse here, want to remind folks that Endgame was what, 3 hours and 2 minutes long.
Right.
So, those of us with old bladders, just again, it was an entertaining film, but just knocking people over on the way to the bathroom. But anyway, if you can't wait till 2026 to 2027, there is something coming out much sooner. In fact, on Disney Plus, Wonder Man, which debuts on that streaming service January of next year, and this project, which was already pretty meta, just got even more meta. Can you explain how?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so this Yahya Abdul-Mateen II starring vehicle has we have Ben Kingsley, but Ben Kingsley is not playing Ben Kingsley. However, Josh Gad is joining the cast as Josh Gad. And we're an ultra famous version of Josh Gad.
Now, anybody who listens to the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network knows that Josh is a friend of the show. In fact, he co-hosted once while Mr. Testa was off on one of his adventures, and so I will ask him about this. But Mr. Gad is currently out of the country in Australia, no less. He's shooting Spaceballs 2. That went before the cameras September 27th of this year, and will be coming out from Amazon MGM Studios in 2027. And I would send him a note, but I don't want to disturb the poor guy. And but again, as we get closer to Wonder Man, hopefully he'll be back stateside, so we can ask him about being a more famous version of himself. How one does that. So
yeah, and we can also now consider Olaf to be part of the MCU. That's a synergy, Jim. Synergy.
Yes. That said, though, you gotta. 2027, very big year for Mr. Gad. We have Spaceball 2 and then Frozen 3, which is supposed to arrive in theaters November 24th of 2027. By the way, day before Thanksgiving in 2027, November 25th to be exact. Which again, we're talking in circles here, Dan. We're back to Thanksgiving, and by the way, I should probably check on the defrosting bird. All right, folks, take a small break here. There will be more Marvelous Disney in a moment, but first, this.
Hello, I'm Chris Cox, and I've teamed up with Len Testa to argue before our judge, Jim Hill, as he presides over us on our new podcast, The Case For with Chris Cox. In every episode, Len and I will argue about the big Disney debates like park hopping, early entry, and whether churros count as a food group. Whether you're planning a trip or just love Disney debates, it's the perfect podcast for you. Search The Case For with Chris Cox wherever you get your podcasts.
We find Vecna, we end this once and for all, together.
On November 26th.
We have a plan. It's a bit insane. Everyone in?
He knows where we are.
Watch out!
Get ready for one last adventure.
We stay true to ourselves. Stay true to our friends, no matter the cost.
Found you. Stranger Things, the final season, begins November 26th. Only on Netflix.
Oh, Hilton stay. Your beds are soft and cozy. No lumpy couch, no stiff futon, no shower line at crack of dawn. Oh, Hilton stay.
When you want holiday comfort you can count on, it matters where you stay. Enjoy comfortable rooms and friendly service when you stay with Hilton instead. Save up to 25% this season when you book with Hilton. Hilton for the stay. Terms apply.
Hello, I'm Diane Morgan. If you know who I am, you know who I am. If you don't, who cares? I'm here to explain Italian Time, a holiday phenomenon where Italians throw away their clocks and gather for eternity with San Pellegrino. I've been at this party so long that I've eaten 5 courses, hugged someone's grandma twice, and been offered a job in the family restaurant. So this holiday season, make sure to bring enough San Pellegrino to last you through the meal, the after meal, and the entire goodbye ritual. San Pellegrino, holiday on Italian Time.
And we're back. Okay, so Turkey seems fine, not moving around on its own, so I'm happy. What about you, Dan?
I was thinking about your earlier story about the Universal Orlando team member who was dressed as Captain America and did such a great job with the little boy at Iowa. So it made me think about back a little bit. Long before Chris Evans picked up that shield and played Cap in the movies, there was a future TV icon who donned the red, white, and blue. Now, do you know who that might be?
I do not, but I am intrigued. Who are we talking about?
I am talking about Jonathan Frakes. That's right. Before he was number one.
Will
Riker, number one on Star Trek
Generation.
The Next Generation. Jonathan Frakes was the go-to Captain America for promotional appearances.
I can totally see that. But what are we talking about? This obviously had to be pre-next gen. Early 80s?
I mean, well, obviously he didn't at the time. He didn't have his beard, but he didn't in the first season either. Yeah, he was in parades, comic shop openings, corporate functions, stage shows, and this is the era before MCU. So it was very scrappy and weird and kind of theatrical. And I will do my best to find some. I've found some photos in the past. I'll see if I can find them, if we can put them in the show notes. But I have to say though, now Jonathan Frakes, I actually was on the press junket for Star Trek First Contact, which was the first Star Trek movie he directed. Now he's a well-established director, but this was his first go.
Totally. Yeah.
And I got to say, this guy, he is just a great guy. He's exactly the way you want him to be. Just
that's so great to hear.
A good dude.
And more to the point, Nancy is a longtime ABC soap fan. So it's also worth noting that he's married to Jeannie Francis, who plays Laura Spencer on General Hospital. And, these two have been married since May of 1988. That's 37 years, which, again, in the real world, that's almost unheard of. But in Hollywood, that never happens. And by the way, you mentioned that he's directing. I mean, anybody who's ever seen like those Librarian TV movies, he did a couple of those. And he continues to work the Trek side of the street. In fact, he just directed the penultimate episode of Star Trek Starfleet Academy, which, again, we were just talking about how Wonder Man is debuting on Disney Plus January 27th. Well, Star Trek Starfleet Academy, that debuts on Paramount Plus 2 weeks prior. On Thursday, January 15th, and it's season 1 is 10 episodes, and in fact, season 2 already in production. And have you seen the trailer for Star Trek Starfleet Academy? Or
I have not, and I am excited about this because I am a big Strange New World fan, and it's sad that will be ending. So
yeah, same thing here. But again, that they, particularly the new management. In fact, they. The new folks at Paramount just announced that there's a new Star Trek theatrical movie in the works, and you got to go look at this trailer. I mean, it's Holly Hunter, Paul Giamatti, Tig Notaro, Robert Picardo is coming back
fantastic
as the Doctor.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
And speaking of things that I can't wait for, and that are also getting not a second season, but a second installment. Please share this news.
Yes, Werewolf by Night 2 has been confirmed. Yes, that cool. One shot Marvel special, kind of in the in tradition of those CBS specials back in the day.
That's very true.
Yeah, okay. With theme music, if you recall, that was from Michael Giacchino, who directed this fantastic special. And he revealed it's officially happening. So, the original was 53 minutes long. It was a nice, break from a lot of the MCU. And it was one of those rare swings for Marvel. I mean, it was, sort of a self-contained, somewhat very stylish. And when it launched, it was mostly black and white. We had Werewolf by Night. We had Man Thing. After everybody saw that, there was a little bit of hope that maybe we can see these characters again. And yes, it is on its way. He revealed it. He said, I'm making the sequel. He also, recently just rewrote the score for Fantastic Four: First Steps. So, yay. Okay. We are, on its way. Now, the question remains, will it be black and white or will it be in color? Because as you recall, they did do the switch to color. Now, did you watch the color version?
I did. And I have to say, I kind of liked the black and white version better, but it still had its charms. Yeah. And by the way, Dan isn't the only one who loved this, this TV special. In fact, I went so far as to buy Marvel Studios' Werewolf by Night, the art of the special. That was a 200-page hardcover coffee table book that Marvel Universe sent out in the world back in October of 2022. That was actually a year and 2 weeks after this TV special that Dan was talking about aired on Disney Plus. And look, there's always something of a delay involved with the art of the MCU books. In fact, the first of the series, Art of Iron Man, hit store shelves back in November of 2008. That was 6 months after that Jon Favreau film first arrived in theaters, again, May of 2008. And Dan, there are now 38 books in this series.
Oh. And how many of those do you have?
Here's the thing, the 38th, Marvel Studios, the Fantastic Four: First Steps, the Art of the Movie Deluxe Edition, that actually hit store shelves on, the day this podcast goes live. Day before, Tuesday, November 25th. And again, we're going live on the 26th. And all right, so this hardcover it comes with a slipcover, 5 lithos, a portfolio of Reed Richards, the various things he invented for the thing. And that's all lovely. My problem, though, is this book comes with a very large price tag. Dan, this is $150 a piece. But here's the thing: Amazon, they're trying. They're like, well, if you buy the book in advance, we'll give you a price break. I mean, it's $5.95, but it's a price break. Okay. All right, and look, I have to say, as someone who has been buying these books forever, I remember when these art of books, they started at $40 a piece, and then they bumped up to $45. Well, look, we're capitalists. We live in a consumer-driven culture. And look, Marvel Universe is entitled to make a profit. So, anyone who listens to this podcast knows I'm a whiny baby man, and I held my tongue when that they crept the price up to $60 a piece, and that's just over the past 2 years. But more recently, with copies of, for example, the art of Marvel's Thunderbolts, initially hitting store shelves back in September of this year at $100, and now to have Fantastic Four: First Steps, the art of book, debuting at $150. It's interesting at this moment where affordability is an issue, kind of a hot button issue in the fall of 2025. This sudden ratcheting up of the prices by Marvel Universe, I have 2 words: nakedly greedy. Now, mind you, if you, for example, today want to get a copy of Marvel Studios' Werewolf by Night, the art of the special, originally for $60, now only $27.46. That's 54% off. And even Thunderbolts, which, again, I bought at that price, today is selling for $66. That's 34% off of that $100 price. So if you're willing to wait, there are bargains to be had here. If, on the other hand, you are someone like myself who needs to buy these things because I work with Dan Graney and I need to have stories for this show. I have to hold up my end of the deal. You got to suck it up, Buttercup. But at the same time, I was just down in Orlando, and it's one of these things where, again, I'm in whiny baby man mode. I'm old enough that I remember when it cost 50 cents to park in the Magic Kingdom parking lot. And today, if you just want to get in, it's $35. If, on the other hand, you want to park close, that's $60. And but on the other hand, okay, I get it. The Walt Disney Company making some very expensive movies, like say Doomsday and Secret Wars. And by the way, folks, when we get back from this break, Dan is going to tell us about the filmmakers who are behind these two upcoming Avengers films and what makes them special and interesting. But first, this.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just
speaking into the void?
But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
No one should have to choose between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina is helping to create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters through the Purple Leash Project, so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. What do you bring to a holiday party? Simple, a bottle of Casamigos. Because nothing gets the party started like a Casamigos margarita, which isn't just for summer. In fact, it's the perfect pour all year round. Casamigos is the gift that always feels right, because anything goes with my Casamigos. Please drink responsibly. Imported by Casamigos Spirits Company, White Plains, New York. Casamigos Tequila, 40% alcohol by volume.
And we're back. Okay, folks, unless you've been living under a rock, you have to know that the first 4 episodes of Season 5 of Stranger Things, that acclaimed horror adventure series that Matt and Ross Duffer created, first debuted on Netflix back in July of 2016. Anyway, first 4 episodes go live on that streaming service. Today, again, the day this podcast goes live, Wednesday, November 26th, the day before Thanksgiving. I just love the idea of people sitting on the couch, eating pie, and it's like,
holiday fun.
Holiday fun. And speaking of holiday fun, the last 4 episodes of Season 5 of Stranger Things debuts on December 25th, Christmas Day, and Dan, that's really what we all want under the tree this year, isn't it? A Demogorgon?
That's right. Yes.
What says love? A thing with its face split open. But long before people were singing the praises of the Duffer Brothers. A quick side note, back in August of this year, Matt and Ross, we were just talking about Paramount with the Star Trek show stuff. They just signed a deal with Paramount Plus.
That's right.
Beginning in April of 2026. Yeah. And then for 4 years after that, the Duffer Brothers creative efforts will be the exclusive property of that streaming service rather than Netflix. But anyway, before there were the Duffer Brothers, there were the Russo Brothers, Anthony and Joe, which if you're an MCU fan, well, you know that Anthony and Joe were the guys who brought us, what is it, Captain America, The Winter Soldier, April 2014. Captain America Civil War, May of 2016. And then, of course, Avengers Infinity War, April of 2018. And then the capper, again, that 3-hour and 2-minute long film, Avengers Endgame, April 2019. Though, again, another little weird bend on the story. After that, they actually, they went to Netflix for a while, didn't they?
That's right. They took a Marvel break.
There we go. A little creative sorbet. And it's what they did. But at the same time, there were Marvel people involved in these things. I want to say they made The Gray Man. And that actually starred Chris Evans, Captain America. And that came out July 2022. And then after that, in fact, just earlier this year, we got The Electric State, which was kind of a twofer because, well, that starred Millie Bobby Brown from the Stranger Things series, as well as Chris Pratt from Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So, but again, that was March of this year. But as you mentioned, they took a Marvel break, but we learned that break was over last year, right?
Oh, yeah. It was kind of a big deal when they came walking out in Hall H at Comic-Con. So they came out, as you might recall. They walked out and said, "Hey, we're going to be doing the next Avengers movies." Kevin Feige was there, and everybody blew up. The room was excited, and that's when none other than Mr. Robert Downey Jr. Came walking out from behind all of those characters dressed like Dr. Doom to announce that he too will be returning to the MCU, but not as Tony Stark that we know.
Yeah, and that was one of those days where the internet broke, folks.
Yeah.
Just that 1-2 punch of the Russo Brothers are back, and Robert Downey Jr. is with them. But
there's more. There's more, Jim.
Yeah. Okay. So please explain the significance here.
Now, this is not. This came out, and it's one of those things where it just like. It wasn't just one source. It came up a few times, and it kept popping up. And it's nothing huge, on the surface. For a lot of people, it's not necessarily about a specific character or a specific moment or a movie or anything. But the word is that the Russo brothers might be sticking around to help shape Phase 7 and the Mutant Saga. Which now this is kind of a big deal because it doesn't. The rumor isn't that they're going to be the directors or the script writers or that, but it's more of the Marvel, the way they've got the things set up. They have their storytelling group. They have, in the past, there's been situations where like the Marvel method would have a group who would give notes. And that infamously is what led Edgar Wright to leave the Ant-Man movie. And he's talked about this more recently, and it does make sense because, we have to go back. That Ant-Man script, that was way before there was an MCU. That was before Iron Man came out. So he was making an Ant-Man movie based on Ant-Man. But in the time between his working on that and that movie coming out, well, Marvel became a thing and the MCU became a thing. And then it was like, well, he didn't have his own sandbox anymore. He had to join this sandbox. And he also didn't just have his own toys, but he had to use some other ones too. So
Yeah,
it really was one of
yeah.
those just genuine creative differences where he's like, well, that's not really what I planned on doing. But his touch is still in there. I mean, that's a big reason why Paul Rudd became Ant-Man. That was Edgar Wright behind that. Well, as you know, it's bigger for the Russo brothers, because they're not just, the talk here is that they're not just going to be the, filmmakers, but if they're talking about having them in as the Mutant Saga, then we're talking about being architects of the next storytelling era, and that is a big deal.
It totally is. I mean, again, forgive me for interjecting here, but when you look at you look at Winter Soldier, you look at Civil War, you look at Infinity War and Endgame, the skill the fact that they can put multiple superheroes in individual scenes and interacting with it, and it all feels purpose driven. It's all story driven, but at the same time, every one of the actors gets a moment, gets a beat, gets, it's just this wonderful mix of story service. And at the same time, the performers get wonderful things to do. And so, I'm not going to lie. This is kind of what makes me a teeny bit concerned about Doomsday and both Secret Wars, because they did such a masterful job with Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame, and it's just sort of like we're all walking into the theater, with a really high standard, and it's like maybe not entirely fair to Anthony and Joe.
Well, I mean, we got to look back at the history, because one thing they've showed us is that they do, to your point, they have the ability of juggling all of these characters. But after Endgame, they said they were done. They were done with Marvel. I mean, as you saw, they went on and did the Gray Man and they did the Electric State. But they also had one caveat, and I remember just in passing, they said, but if they ever came back, they would love to do Secret Wars. And that was it. That was just a random aside. And then they, but there was no plan for that because they were going, Marvel was moving into the Kang Dynasty, and that was the plan. But then fast forward to 2025, they've got Doomsday now. They've got Secret Wars. And this is where the big chatter has been happening this week, is bringing them into the Marvel. It's called the Marvel Parliament, which sounds very hoity-toity, but it is the brain trust that oversees the direction of the movies. And as I mentioned, this has been something that's existed for a long time, and there's been varying degrees of success as far as giving notes, giving direction, but what makes it interesting for the Russo brothers is this is the first time that we're hearing that this brain trust, the Parliament, is going to take people who were on the front lines of a production. This isn't, where there are people who worked in the comic books, for instance, people who used to worked on the publishing side of things, or maybe worked on the production side of things. These are people who drove the story forward, who juggled those characters, who were able to get each character to have a moment that felt meaningful. So this is, I mean, for the Russo brothers, obviously a big step, but for Marvel, a huge step.
Because, and let's be honest here, that the Russo brothers coming back at this time, because it's been a little bumpy these past few years, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before, and there's been things. I mean, there was post-COVID production chaos, and there was the visual effects worker burnout. That was something that came up, and especially came up with the exit of Victoria Alonso, which different versions of that story. Then the Kang Dynasty and the Kang arc kind of fell apart. With Jonathan Majors issues. And we saw that the multiverse saga, started to become a little unfocused. Which you don't want when you're basically introduced. We want people to be able to focus on a single universe. Now we're bringing in multiverses, and that's where people started to talk about superhero fatigue, Quantum Mania, the third Ant-Man movie, the Marvels underperformed. There was rewrites and reshoots and pipeline. Reshoots is part of the Marvel method anyway.
Absolutely. But, at the same time, the thing I kept hearing over and over again, especially among people who loved Endgame, who, just talked about, how watching Marvel movies post Endgame kind of felt like homework that, I got to see this so I know what's going on with that limited series, or I got to see that limited series before I see, go and see this movie in theaters. And, it got tough.
And you're hitting the nail on the head. There's the combination of the challenge of getting people in the theaters with COVID, but then Disney Plus came out. But Disney Plus, especially in the Bob Chapek era, which was like content, was pushing so much content, which spread the Marvel teams very thin. But then there was so much stuff out there. So everybody's like, do I watch this? When can I see that? What about this? Do I have to watch that? And there was a lot of stuff all coming at once, which you would think at the time when the country was somewhat isolated, we all had the time to watch that, but it ended up maybe not being the case.
And and in fact, in your notes you pulled together today, can you share what Alex Perez had to say?
Well, Alex Perez is he's a Marvel insider, and he's very well respected. And he said it very plainly. It is like less than half the projects from the last 5 years mattered to the main story.
Ooh. Now, to be fair, we were just enthusing about Werewolf by Night, which may not have, pushed, the big story that Marvel Studios, was doing forward, but it was still delightful. But at the same time, Alex is not wrong.
He's not wrong. And I think that's why we're going to see more. Werewolf by Night is a great example. It's like they're not going to do an entire series with a major investment, which then has to somehow fold into the bigger story. So people pay attention. They can do these one-offs. They're, where it's a little bit of a bite of the apple, and it gives you a sense of the character. And then if the people respond, they can bring that character back. But it doesn't have to be, something that requires the homework that we talked about.
All right. So if we're talking Doomsday, Secret Wars, Phase 7. So what exactly are the Russos going to need to do here? And in fact, that's what's, and I apologize, folks, on this show, Dan and I are, kind of make a hard rule of, we don't want to do spoilers. And, and in fact, just in the past week or so, there's been news about who else might be in these movies. So coming out of the multiverse, what is Marvel now looking to try to fix? What are Anthony and Joe going to be tasked with?
Well, okay. It started in Comic-Con. Robert Downey Jr. came out. He and this is one of those things. He said, "New mask, same task." Now we know he's playing Dr. Doom, and we know he played Iron Man. So there was there was a lot of chatter, like, well, what does that mean? And the only thing that for me, the only thing I could think of is like the one thing, and it was a flaw, if you recall, of Tony Stark, was he wanted to build a suit of armor around the world, which while noble, was also part. His ambition led to greater issues. Well, I think the now we're seeing that the Russos, especially as being part of this parliament, they're understanding that the stakes, they're raising the stakes. The brain trust, they understand that this has to go beyond, what we saw in the earlier Avengers movies, where it was one universe. Now we're dealing with a multiverse. And, to bring the Russos in here, it means that there's a lot so behind the scenes. So instead of the onus of keeping track and doing all the homework falling on the viewers, it's going to fall on the Russos and the Marvel Parliament. They have to shape all of this. And they know that to do this, they have to avoid, the previous mess, which was, too many disconnected storylines, too many open endings. And really, kind of reiterate what Alex Perez said, no clear direction. We talked about this before. They excel at juggling these massive casts and multi-threaded arcs. So with them on board, they're going to decide which new characters enter the MCU, how the mutants integrate, and then how Secret Wars reboots or reshapes the canon. Because so it's not so much about taking all of the past, and they're taking all of Marvel's past. But we have to get to a point where the mutants have a natural and premier seat at the table going forward.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think that's the Russos are basically saying, okay, we have to take all of this. We've done this before, but now we're folding in every other character we can imagine. And I don't know how deep that well will go on all these other characters. But I mean, going back to when Simu Liu was talking about this being a love letter, I think it's going to go pretty deep. I think we're going to have a lot of surprises and a lot of characters popping up to basically acknowledge the past, because at some point they're going to have to push the play button and go forward. So, Marvel's asking the Russos just, to help them keep from, tripping over their own timeline again.
If I might, there's a story I've heard about Anthony and Joe that I love, because it first of all shows the type of filmmakers they are. Did you ever hear about when they were editing Endgame, and they came to that scene where Thanos, turns to the camera and says, "I am inevitable," and and clicks his fingers, and the editor stopped the hard edit at that point and turned to the Russo brothers and said, and turned to them and said, "Wouldn't it be cool at this point if Iron Man said in response, 'And I'm Iron Man'?" And the two of them were like, "Holy crap!" Because it was like, to call back all the way to the end to the first Iron Man movie and to bring that into Endgame, and they were like, "Hang on, we got to go get Kevin Feige," and it's like, we need to get Robert back here, and I want to say he was shooting Dr. Dolittle at the time, and it's like, we need to get Robert back here. We need to get him in front of the camera to say, one phrase, and I'm Iron Man. But it said, and it will make the movie. But it was like, it wasn't their idea.
Right.
But, but it was so good. They championed it, and they went to Feige, and think about what that cost to fly a Robert Downey Jr. back, for 2 words, 2 words.
You've got to get him back in. You've got to get him back in some of his wardrobe. You've got, I mean, it's no simple thing where they could just like have him record it, on the phone.
No, not at all. But when you think about that moment in the theater, and again, it was, I mean, that whole set piece, the battle at the end of Endgame is, when you think about, we were just talking about how good they are at giving, individual characters and performers moments, and that is just sprinkled with, just masterful choices, whether it's the, Chris Evans, with Thor's hammer, and then, and then cutting to Chris Hemsworth. I knew it. Just sort of, there's so many great little moments like that.
Yeah.
And again, but to bring this full circle, that's why I kind of feel sorry for Anthony and Joe, because to be honest, they're competing against themselves. They have made so many good Marvel movies that we're all walking into Doomsday and Secret Wars with impossibly high standards. And, that's not really fair.
It is. You're absolutely right. They've kind of set themselves up because they have to not only just top themselves, but they have to top everything that came before it. It's all of this history, because there's so much, because they're telling us that everything rides on this, not just for the audiences, for the characters, but also, I mean, it's a big swing for Marvel. So it's, I mean, it shouldn't be surprising that, yes, that Marvel's like, hey, why don't you stick around and just kind of keep us on track?
I'm saying this out loud, folks. I have zero interest in the Avatar films. I love James Cameron as a movie maker. I mean, when Titanic comes on, I find myself, it's like 20 minutes in, and it's like, it's like I stopped because of the craft. On the other hand, tall blue, supermodels, I have no interest in. But that said, I will be in a theater, this December with a ticket to Fire and Ash, if only so I can then watch, the trailer for Doomsday.
Yeah, just buy a smaller beverage because it's long.
All right. Well, speaking of beverage, which makes me think of the kitchen, which means I'm hearing vague knocking from the stove. I think that the turkey has come back to life. I may have to go deal with this, Dan. All right. So anyway, as we wrap up the 5th episode of the reboot of Marvelous Disney, Dan, if the nice folks want to hear more of you, where can they find you?
Oh, sure. You can find me predominantly on YouTube at the Hububbery. That's HUBBUBBERY. The little show we've got on there. And you can also find me on Facebook and also Twitter, Instagram, all the other places. Just look for the Hububbery, HUBBUBBERY.
Cool. Now, me, you can find me. I got a couple other podcasts here at Jim Hill Media. Disney Dish with Len Testa, Fine Tuning. That's the animation news podcast I do with Drew Taylor from The Wrap. Likewise, there's the Epic Universe podcast I do with Eric Kersey, the talented gentleman who produces a lot of the shows here at Jim Hill Media. Also, I Want That Too. That's our Disney merch podcast I do with Eric's lovely bride. Also, Disney Unpacked, that's the video series that Len and I do over on Patreon with veteran Imagineer Jim Schul. Let's see. As Dan and I head out the door here, folks, I want to ask a favor of you. If you could head on over to Apple Podcasts and review Marvelous Disney, that'll let more folks know that this podcast is back. Likewise, if you have any Marvel-related topics that you want Dan and I to discuss on future installments, just send them along. And trust me, folks, episode 6, there was so much stuff we developed for episode 5. Episode 6 is basically in the can already. But come back in 2 weeks and find out what Mr. Granny and I will be talking about then. But anyway, on behalf of Dan, thank you for listening to this episode of Marvelous Disney, and we will be back soon.